We're going back to school. Today we're going to be upcycling this old vintage desk into something usable and functional. Use it for your back to schooler, your homeschooler, your virtual learner, or for a home office. So we're going to take you along today while we refinish this desk. Let's get going. Alright, so the first thing I do is remove the old knobs, and I'm going to take the casters off the bottom as well. A tip for when you're taking drawers out of an old piece of furniture like this is you want to make sure they're marked so you know what position they go in. Because sometimes on this old furniture, they're kind of made to fit a certain spot. So you want to make sure you mark them so you know where they go back. This is a good opportunity to wipe out any of the cobwebs and dirt underneath as well. And then unfortunately my camera cut out for the first coat of sanding here, but you basically just want to keep doing the same thing, going over lightly, even passes, and let the sander do the work, and just take that top coat off and get down to that nice wood. Fortunately, this was a nice solid piece of furniture. It wasn't veneered, so I could sand the edges and everything with the sander without having to worry about the veneer showing or getting that edge of the veneer. So it sanded really nicely. But you definitely want to be careful if you do have veneer on top that you don't sand too deep or you don't sand down on the edges. And now I just take a piece of sandpaper and go with the grain over top to try to take out some of those kind of swirls from the orbital sander and make sure it's nice and smooth, but you want to make sure you go with the grain so you don't see any scratching. Now I'm going to go ahead and just make a few minor repairs. If you notice here, there's the screw missing that holds the track in place. And also up here while I was sanding, I noticed this little part of the top here is cracked, so I'm going to go ahead and glue that fast, make that nice and secure, and I'm going to put the screw down here to make sure the track stays in place. And now, since I don't have a clamp that would work on this edge here, I'm just going to go ahead and put a couple staples, some shallow staples up underneath to hold that closed. And now I'm just going to go ahead and give the drawers a quick scuff sanding so that there's not any kind of spots where you can see where the old knobs were.
Hey guys, I am going to be painting this desk behind me that Ethan's been working on, and you guys know that usually I just pop on, show you what paint I'm using, and start painting. But this time I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about it because we're going to be using a brand new paint I've never tried before. It is Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Driftwood. Now we have painted in chalk paint before. In fact, in fact, when we first got started refinishing furniture years and years ago, chalk paint is pretty much all we ever used, and we had used a brand that I think have actually stopped making chalk paint. And so we had kind of drifted away from that, and we started using mineral paint and milk paint, and we just haven't really gotten back to chalk paint in a few years. So we thought it would be fun to give new chalk paint a try. So we had seen there was a lady at the shop where we have our booth who sells this Dixie Belle chalk paint, and we thought we would give it a try. So this will be interesting. It has been a really long time since we worked with chalk paint, so I know it's a little bit different than the kind of paints we've been used to using, and I think it'll be fun to give it a try. So let's start painting. Okay, one more thing I want to say before I get started is when you're painting with chalk paint, you should always start with a damp brush. So I'm just going to, I brought my Mr. bottle out, and I'm just going to spray my brush down. Okay, now back to painting. first coat is completely dry. I did have to kind of get used to the feel of chalk paint again. Every paint has a slightly different feel as you're painting with it. So I did have some like thinner spots here as I was painting, but that's fine. We're going to do a second coat. And I think a second coat should do it for us. We'll see.
Alright, and this is one of the reasons why I don't fully finish the top before the rest is painted, because, you know, inevitably you're going to get a little bit of paint on the top, so it's easier to sand it without any top coat on. You can sand all that extra paint off before you start applying the top coat. And for this, I'm just using triple thick polyurethane. Gives it a nice, you know, natural feel. I didn't want to do anything stained or, you know, anything harsh because this was such a beautiful wood underneath, so I just wanted to seal that in. And I'm going to go ahead and just take a really fine grit sandpaper, I think this is a 600, and just kind of lightly sand that first coat down just to get any of the roughness and kind of the dust off. And I'm going to use a lint-free rag just to get that sanded dust off so we can put our second coat on. And now I'm going to give this a more detailed sanding. I'm not going to go heavy with it like we do on some of our pieces. I just kind of go around and get the edges, some of the details, and just kind of give it a little bit of character. But I didn't want to go too heavy on this piece. I wanted to keep it a little bit cleaner. And I'm going to go ahead and wax the whole piece with furniture wax. And Heather can probably criticize my buffing method here. She's usually the one that applies the wax in addition to painting, but it's okay. But just kind of buff it on in circular motion, kind of make sure that you have good coverage on it, and then we're going to go back and wipe off the excess. And now we're going to use these glass knobs. These are kind of like a traditional style glass knob that you find on some antique furniture. We usually get our knobs from D Lawless. You know, we're not sponsored by them or anything, but they have an awesome selection of knobs to choose from, knobs and pulls, and they have a lot of these kind of classic ones. So if you're missing one from an antique piece, chances are they probably have it. So I definitely check them out if you need knobs or pulls. And I'll leave the link in the description below for them. Alright, thanks for watching everybody. If you're interested in some of our other furniture makeovers, check out these videos right here.